So when we are in a situation as we are right now, fighting against this lockout, it is not, with all due respect to some of the people who line up against me on the other side and line up against our players on the other side, it is not a battle between billionaires and millionaires. It is a battle for the people who risk everything to play this game, and the families who support them, the fans who love them, and the cities and locations and states who support the stadiums and support the teams. So my concept of team is one that I am proud to represent, and I can tell you that it is our concept of team that keeps us going each and every day. So to the question of why are we in the situation with respect to the collective bargaining agreement that we now find ourselves in? I wish I had a better answer. Our players in the National Football League play on average 3.6 years. 3.6. It takes you 3 years in the National Football League in order to vest for any, let me underscore, any post-career health care. If you play less than 3 years, the health care that is available to you as a former player amounts to zero. So in a game where your career can end at any time, to quote someone who is a dear friend of mine and a dear friend to this university, and I do believe a dear friend to the players in football, Paul Tagliabue, the injury rate in the National Football League is 100%. So a more perfect union has to be, how do we develop and grow and cultivate a love for the game in the same way that I have had a love for the game as a young man and a love for the game as the executive director. And lastly, how do we have a more perfect union with the owners who own the team? I would posit that revolutions are bad for business. I would posit that shutdowns or lockouts are bad for business. I would submit to you that for our sponsors upon whom we have tremendous relationships, uncertainty is bad for business. And I sure as heck know that if players and their families don't know if there is health care in March for their kids, that that is a bad thing for our relationship. So I've called on the commissioner to tell our families that they'll have health care in March. I've called on our commissioner to ensure that the pensions are fully funded for our former players. I've called on our commissioner to let's have a more perfect union. I've got a great relationship with Roger Goodell. I know he loves this game. And I've committed ourselves and our player leadership to making sure we do everything to ensure that we don't have the end of football, the end of games. But in this prism, in this paradigm of a battle, I do believe there's hope. Why? You've seen changes on the concussion policy in football over the last year than we've seen in the last 40. We've seen our players volunteer to take themselves out of the game, even when they want to play. Why? Because I think they now know that the long-term consequences or risk of consequences of Alzheimer's, dementia, or other neurological injuries are too great of a risk. And that it is much better to play long, even if that means for guys like Sean Morey this year on our executive committee, a young man who made a decision that he couldn't play football anymore because he risked the quality of life with his wife and easy decision. They tore the jersey off. He pulled it off himself. But he made the right decision. Why? Because I know that a guy like Sean Morey not only believes in the team that he has on the field, but he loves the team he's got off the field. And he made the right call. So into that era, into that paradigm of fight, I do believe that there is hope for a better union with owners. I think the critical components of that are a deal that is first fair, and most importantly, a deal that is transparent. We cannot live in a world where one side or the other is making a guess about whether our relationship is a good one or a bad one. Too much is at stake for us to guess. As the rest of our country climbs, fights, scraps, and kicks its way out of a recession, I believe that now, this fight and the world that we have now found ourselves in lead us and obligate us to have a more perfect union. And it is with that